During 1989, Operation Raleigh organised major expeditions to Zimbabwe, Australia and Chile. Expedition 89F took place in Chile and began in October. Running for 10 weeks during the Chilean springtime, this was the first of a series of expeditions to be run in this rugged corner of South America. Having taken less than 20 hours to fly almost to the other side of the world, we loaded our rucksacks onto the roofs of 2 coaches and began a 24-hour journey south over 1,000 kilometres to the island of Chiloé. We quickly leave the capital of Santiago behind, and the coaches travel fast through the night, often overtaking slower vehicles with only a few feet to spare. An angry blaze of headlights frequently announces a close shave we have had with a northbound lorry. The following morning, a small ferry takes us across to the island of Chiloé, and the coaches continue along an unsurfaced road to the tiny harbour of Chonchi. From the island of Chiloé, we must continue south for a further 24 hours on board another ferry. The pace of life in this part of the world is very relaxed, and the arrival of the ferry 2 hours late is no cause for concern. Due to the falling tide, we must now wait a further 6 hours before the water level is high enough for the lorries to negotiate the steep loading ramp. In the meantime, our rucksacks are lowered into the hold, but not before a hose is split and sprayed them with hydraulic oil. "24 hours later, having travelled through a series of spectacular fjords, we arrive at Puerto Aysen and begin our final coach journey. As we travel inland, the roads steadily deteriorate until the coach finally grounds in a deep pothole, forcing us to complete our journey to base camp on foot. Nestled in amongst pine trees and surrounded by snow-capped mountains, base camp is near to the town of Raleigh with its 37,000 inhabitants. Facilities here are basic. The toilet block consists of wooden seats over a deep pit. The shower hut contains cold showers, and our accommodation comprises 50 small tents. The first week is spent in and around base camp and at a nearby lake. Here we familiarise ourselves with the canoes and other equipment. Having been split into 10 groups with 10 or 12 ventures in each group, we are assigned our different projects. These range from trekking on horseback to ice climbing, from building houses and bridges to providing medical aid. The project brief for Group 8 is ominously lacking in detail. Portaging their canoes where necessary, venturers will canoe across Lago Roosevelt and down the river system, eventually reaching Puerto Cisnes. This will be an extremely exciting, adventurous project and involves some whitewater rapids. On arrival in Puerto Cisnes, the group will meet the alcaldesa and carry out community projects in the village. Little did we know what a standing joke portaging their canoes was to become in the coming weeks. For the next 4 weeks, we must remain completely self-sufficient. Everything we take must be carried by us, and rations and equipment must be carefully selected to save weight. And so we find ourselves, 25 days of rations, 4 canoes, and a whole pile of miscellaneous equipment, deposited at the foot of a remote wet valley. Our task is to portage our canoes 30 kilometres up the Bengal Valley to the watershed. From here, we will navigate a river and lake system, hitherto unnavigated throughout its length, to the Sea of Proto-Cisnes. Having been told that the valley contains a number of disused barns, we carry with us for what we estimate to be a 10-day journey to the first lake only 1 2-man tent. If necessary, a bivouac can be constructed from our lightweight tarpaulins. Now that the expedition is truly underway, everyone is in high spirits. The cold and wet go almost unnoticed, and we are always delighted to find a disused barn in which to spend the night. A fire is quickly lit on which to cook supper, and the barn quickly fills with smoke. The tinned stew tastes delicious, and the discomfort of sleeping on a sloping earth floor does little to prevent us sleeping soundly. The next few days prove to be hard going, but we fall into a good routine and make steady progress. A rota is organised for such menial tasks as digging a latrine, chopping firewood, lighting and tending the fire, washing up, and operating the radio to communicate with base camp. Our progress up the valley also takes on a regular pattern. We have too much equipment to be able to move from any one place in a single day, so we establish a 3-day cycle. While 8 people carry 4 canoes, the remainder of the party goes ahead on a reconnaissance to find somewhere for our next camp. The canoes are carried as far as possible, and then we return. The next day, the food is carried forward, 300 man-day rations. Finally, on day 3, we strike camp and move forward to the next barn with our personal kit, the axe, the spade, the radio, the cooking equipment, etc. The system works well, and despite tremendously heavy packs, we make good progress. After the first 7 kilometres, the path deteriorates, and thick mud, fallen trees, and dense undergrowth make progress significantly more difficult. Our packs are large and catch on trees and branches, and the canoes in particular are awkward and unwieldy to carry and manoeuvre along the twisting route. We slowly progress up the valley from barn to barn, and occasionally we meet a solitary farmer eking out a living from a few cattle. Dressed in old patched jeans and a woolen poncho, the men are invariably happy and contented. Our food has to be strictly rationed. We are always hungry, and food is invariably a topic for conversation. But as our food supply gradually decreases, we are able to start moving from hut to hut in a 2 rather than 3-day cycle. This means carrying heavier packs than previously, often carrying as much as 60 to 80 pounds. On day 9, when almost at the head of the valley, we meet Alfredo, an ex-seal hunter who has been living in this remote spot for 22 years. He is clearly pleased to see us and plies us with wine and homemade bread. The following day, we attempt to reach the watershed, where Alfredo tells us there is a disused hut in which he once lived. No one has been there for many months, and it's not long before we lose the path, to be confronted by dense bamboo. Knowing that a previous expedition were lost for 4 days in terrain such as this, and were only rescued after an extensive helicopter search, we return to gain more local knowledge from Alfredo. He goes one better, and cuts us a route through the bamboo. The following day, negotiating the same route with the canoes, we come close to losing a canoe when a false move causes it to fill with water during a difficult river crossing. once at the watershed, a fairly quick journey to Largo Roosevelt is anticipated. This is not to be the case. There is no longer a path of any sort, and the undergrowth is too dense for any progress to be made through it with our ineffective, poorly designed machetes. The only option left to us is to wade, canoe and scramble down the log-strewn river. During the night, a storm rules out even this option, and we are forced to sit tight for 6 days and wait for the river to subside. Finally, on day 17, a week later than anticipated, having succeeded where 2 previous expeditions failed, we enter the lake. Cold and wet, but with morale at an all-time high, we congratulate ourselves and enjoy at last some real canoeing. In 2 days, we canoe the length of the lake, a distance now covered in half a day, would previously have taken 3 days walking.